Okay, before I start this video, I'd just like to bring you up to date with some news regarding the Nighthawk / Tomahawk. I've just heard in the last couple of days CNC 3D have decided not to provide this as a kit form, and I can understand why, but purely to supply it as an assembled machine. The reason being that, to put it bluntly, it's very difficult for quality control for the parts out of China, and I have suffered it a bit, particularly with these 8120s. To put it simply, the Y-axis, when I actually unwrapped it and actually fully inspected it, I found out that there was deformation in one of the ends, and basically it would be enough to make it unusable for its purpose. So I've sourced locally some heavy-duty 80 by 160 length to replace it. There is some deformation going on the Y-axis as well, but it's not in a place that's going to cause me any problem. But I can definitely understand why they're choosing not to supply it as a kit, because if they supply it as a complete machine, they can control the quality. As for the Tomahawk, Daniel Collins, I've been in discussion with Daniel. We've talked about a few more improvements that can be made. Just little things like opening up some of the holes. Some of them are quite tight fit holes where they don't really need to be. Also, we're talking about adding a shoulder bolt to help alignment of the X-gantry. So I will be doing that backward conversion on my machine, and you'll see that in a future video. And yeah, he's thinking going forward, he's probably not going to provide kits outside of Australia where he can better control the quality before it goes on to the customer. But I'm sure he'll still be able to supply the plates abroad, and then you can source the components locally. I would strongly recommend you at least source the important gantry pieces of extrusion locally to make sure it's perfect as it can be, because they're the vital parts. The rest of it, there's the basic legs and stuff, that can come from China without any problems. But that's that for that. So this is now the Tomahawk only build, not the Nighthawk. Please do support CNC 3D. If you want to use the affiliate link, please do. They are a good company. I have had positive experience with them, and they make a good product. And please subscribe to Daniel. I've got his link to his channel in my description. He, again, is a brilliant person. He's more than happy to chat and talk and help, and that's been brilliant. So now on with the video. Welcome back to the channel. My name is T Cypher, and today we're going to continue the build of the Tomahawk CNC. Okay, so previously in a previous video I did a rough build of the CNC, and one of the things I did notice was that this was not square of this. Talking to Daniel, and Daniel comes from a fitter background, so he's used to fettling the parts together. He suggested, and I agree, that we need to open up these holes here, and I believe going forward he's going to do that as standard, because what's happening is, because the tolerance between where these holes here are and this hole here is, and the fact that we have, and it probably can't pick it up on here, we have a little chamfer from the top of here and a little chamfer on the top of here, and what this is meant to do is meant to reference against this. Now what's happening, because the tolerances are interfering, as you tighten up, these two chamfers are riding up on each other, causing the part to go out of square. So it's roughly going, if you can imagine looking at the scourge here, it would be sort of leaning back a bit. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to open up these by these. I think these are presently 8.8, so I'll probably open them up to 9mm and check the fit. Now, talking to Daniel going forward, I've made the suggestion that he doesn't do the chamfer here. Chamfers are lovely, but this is a reference edge, and the chamfer, once it's built, it's not going to make an effect. And likewise this one here, or if he does do a chamfer, just a very, very literally just taking the edge off, rather than this looks like a 1mm by 1mm, or something like that, maybe 0.7 by 0.75, 0.75 by 0.75. So that way it just gives a stronger reference face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open these up to 9mm, and I'm going to do that off camera in my garage where I've got my drill press. Also, I need to have a look at these holes here, because again we're having a bit of a clash issue going on here, and what we're going to be doing, and this is a improvement that Daniel's going to be doing to, or is looking at doing to the model, is using a 10mm shoulder bolt. So the idea being that that will be all the way through, and you can tram the machine up by rotating on the shoulder bolt. So you loosen up the other 7 holes and this one, and just untighten and just take the bite off this, and so it can rotate, and basically that can allow you to just adjust it and get the nod, as it's called, the gantry, the exact gantry. Basically that's the X gantry, vertical nods the sort of back and forth towards the in the Y plane. So to get rid of that, yeah, so I'm going to need to open that up. So I want these to be to 9mm, and I'm going to use this, and that's the 10mm, so I'm going to mark that up, and the others I'm going to open up to 9mm, just to give a little bit more play for tramming purposes. It's not going to make any real difference. It's not going to cause any problems, should I say. So I'm going to be doing that to both this plate and the other plate, and then we can then look at assembling this part to the carriages, and for that we're going to be referencing this back face here with the reference face on the carriages, and then we can look at assembling this onto here. And I'll probably leave this part off for the moment, because I'm still not 100% sure which way round, if this should be trailing backwards, so if that's the front of the machine there, I don't know if this should be trailing backwards or trailing forwards. So I'm not quite sure which side this will go at the moment, but I will probably just have to open these little holes up to 9mm again. So I'll be doing that on on this particular part. Like I've said, I've been talking to Daniel all along, and I'd like to do the Queen Bee build and making suggestions, and we had quite a decent conversation back and forth about this particular issue, and yeah, and I said to him, it's not like this is these parts, if you've got your reference face, that's your position edge, you don't need the bolts all tightened up, and likewise, as long as you've got a rotating point which is referenced on both sides, it doesn't matter. So you can open up the others and just use that for tramming. So yeah, also in between videos what I've been doing is I've assembled both this end and that end of the Y plane completely fixed. This is a bit of granite surface. I've used this to make this as flush both sides. One of my concerns is being I don't want any twist in the planes like that, so I don't want the Y axis doing that. So hopefully if I can get that flush on all the 4 corners, everything should be true, but we'll see about that. But yeah, so when I come back I will have hopefully machined this, and we'll look at putting together these parts. Okay, so I've opened these up to 9mm. I will counter chamfer them on the inside at some point, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a test fit to make sure that they actually fit together. And well, I know they fit together, but fit together in a square manner. So how best to do this? So you can see what's going on camera. I think what I'm going to do, yeah, I'm going to bring this off the edge of here. Okay. Hopefully we can get in with some bolts. Make sure it's aligned the right way. That way round. Of course, it'll be a lot easier to do if I'm just doing it to camera. still feel it's very tight. Just say that. Fortunately, my bench press is not really suited to drilling something as big as this. But yeah, that's part of the fun, as I like to say. See how this would look. So I'm going to start by just nipping at the centre one. I'm just doing this finger tight for the moment, because if I can tighten up my finger, as far as I'm concerned, I can get in with tooling once tight. I just have to open that one up again, just a smidgen. Okay, going on the tooling. It's just interfering with the aluminium a bit. I don't mind if it's interfering a little bit, as long as it doesn't cause it to go out of square. So, for the pudding time. Okay, see if we can go, I will get it to an angle you guys can see. Okay, so it is looking nice and square now. So I think we want a rinner, so I can now just do a bit of chamfer on them, just to tidy up the hole and sharp edges on that. And then I'm going to move forward and do the 10mm one. I will do that on my vertical mill. I've got a clock out clock in, so that's exactly dead center. And I'm going to go through with a drill, because I know I've checked, and the drill is the right size. So yeah, okay, I'll be back once I've done that. Okay, so I've now opened up these holes on both parts up to a 10mm diameter, which was a little harder than I first thought, mainly because I think the drill bits I have are just teensy bit less than 10mm, and this bit is on the spot, but now this fits in nicely. And what will basically happen, because it's such a snug fit, I'll be able to tram it on this. I'll have a washer in here first, of course, because otherwise I won't be able to nip down. And these are a 10 by 20 shoulder screw. So if you look on the other side, it's just not going all the way through. Yep. So there we go. As you can see, nice, pretty perfect fit really, which I'm glad with, happy with. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get these, the carriages, I'm going to get them clean, and then I'm going to get them assembled onto the mounting plates for the carriages. So hopefully when you come back we should see I'll have them all cleaned up, and we'll make a start, and I'll show you how I'm going to go about dealing with that problem. Okay, so this is how I actually clean the carriages. So what I'm using is IPA at 99.8%. That's what I recommend doing. You don't want to introduce any water if you can to this, because it will cause the carriages to rust, even if you've got like 20% water in there. So I just go as pure IPA as you can get a hold of. And I'm just giving them a good old soak and trying to get all the crappy grease in there. Just agitating the bearings carefully so they don't go flying all over the place, because that's always a pain. On the Queen Bee build, I actually stripped these bearing blocks down. I'm not going to bother, in all honesty, I don't think it's necessary. I'm just giving them a good old clean. Stripping them down takes quite a long time, and It's really quite annoying getting all the bearings back in play. And yeah, I think I lost one the previous time, and luckily I got hold of a bag of replacement bearings, but yeah, I'd rather avoid that if I can, because yeah, just things can go wrong. And I've given the little slides to clean as well. Basically, I keep the slides in place unless they're on a rail while I'm cleaning them, because you don't want these slides out, because the chance of you losing a bearing are vastly increased if that's the case. So yep, so I'm going to continue to get these cleaned, and then I'm going to lay them out to dry, leave them for half an hour. They're very patient, but that evaporates pretty quickly. And then I will be looking at, what I'll do is reinsert the plastic, put in a squirt of lithium grease, and then we'll get them onto the carriage blocks. Okay, so now coming to aligning the carriages onto the plate, and this face here, let's just get to a view where you can actually see what I'm just pointing at. This face here is a reference face, so this needs to be square with the rails. Originally I was trying all sorts of mad concoctions using my surface plate and slip blocks and everything, and it just wasn't working. I've spent the last 3-4 hours doing it. One thing I would say is that the holes, again, there was some slight tightness going on with these holes here, so I've opened them up from what was probably a 6.1, maybe 6.2 up to 6.5 millimeters, just to give me a little bit of play. So finally I've come to the way of doing it, and I'm slapping myself because it's taken so long and I was being an idiot. But what I've done is I've set up by DTI. This is again, I wouldn't guarantee this to be accurate, but I believe it's repeatable, and since you're just referencing yourself, what I've done is I kept one bolt tight, so one of these bolts here tight, and on the opposite end I'm just knocking it with a dead blow hammer just to tap it in. So now we can see, hopefully if I bring it along, we start at 20, we get to the other end and it's just over 20. So yeah, that's that this each little nodule is a gap, represents 0.002 millimeters on this one. So that, I think that is pretty much going to be the tightest, the most accurate I'm going to get it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carefully do these bolts up, and I mean really carefully, just going back and forward as I do it, making sure it's still clocked in, tap it if I need to, and then torque it up with the torque wrench, and then I'll move on to connecting the actual faceplate for these. Okay, so now I've bolted the upright onto this carriage. I did it in situ because I just don't want to take it off and on again. Like I mentioned, I've opened up these bolt holes a little bit just to help get this bolt alignment. There's a reference face which mates against this, and you can see we're nice and square. Can barely see any light through it, and that's probably more just maybe a little bowing somewhere. These bolts are M8 by 30. I've used washers on them because I like to use washers. I just think it's good practice to use washers where practical, just otherwise you're tightening down onto a surface and potentially damaging it. So I'm going to call it a night now. It's 10 to 10. I was hoping tonight to have this axis on, the other axis on, the ZX axis in place, again just a dry fit for that, and to get the two Y axes all aligned up. So we'll continue this tomorrow.